I've observed and coached hundreds of struggling 1-2 and 1-3 players, and I keep seeing the same 5 stubborn lies that ruin their sessions and lose them money. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly what these lies are, how to stop them from costing you money, and what to do instead to boost your win rate in your very next game. To start, let me show you the biggest lie of them all. A while ago, I was playing my local 1-2 game with a friend who isn't happy with his results. After a few minutes, the following hand developed. An early position player limped, the cutoff raised to 10, the big blind and the limper called. I folded my 9 deuce suited and my friend also folded pre-flop. The flop came 10-3 deuce rainbow. The big blind checked, the limper bet 20, only the cutoff called. The turn was a 7 and brought in a flush draw. The limper now bet 75 into the pot of 70. Cutoff folded. The limper shows pocket 10s for top set. So the guy limped a hand as strong as pocket 10s, then donked with top set, and then overbet when he still had the nuts, but the board got wetter. 20 minutes later, that same guy now raises to 15. My friend called, everyone else folded. The flop came king 6-4. The original raiser c-bet big. My friend called. The turn was a jack that brought in the flush draw. The guy in early position now overbet again. My friend called again. The river brought the backdoor flush. Both players checked. The guy in early position, unsurprisingly, turns over pocket kings for top set. My friend mucked and told me later that he had king queen. To me, it was obvious that the early position player had a monster. After seeing him limp pocket 10s, I thought he'd only raise with queens or better. And once he bet huge on the flop and turn, it was clear that he must have a huge hand. But my friend never picked up on it. Why not? Well, when the previous hand was being played, he was texting someone on his phone and totally missed what was going on. And that's the problem. He believes good players don't need to pay attention, but nothing could be further from the truth. What actually makes a good player is the ability to exploit others, and to do that you have to pay attention. So always follow hands after you fold and gather information you can use later. Every betting pattern, every strange limp, it all becomes ammo for when you're in the pot, while everyone else is scrolling their phones. And if you want a shortcut here, I actually put together a free cheat sheet called Exploit Every Player Type. It breaks down the exact adjustments you could make against common players you'll face at 1-2 and 1-3. Link in the description below. The second false belief is one of the most stubborn ones because nearly everyone buys into it and it costs them a ton of value. Let me show you what I mean by taking a shower. Imagine putting your hand under cold water. That's not that bad, right? It's a little uncomfortable, maybe even a shock at first, but it's tolerable. But now imagine stepping into a full-on cold shower. This now makes you jump back and scream immediately. So what does that have to do with low stakes? Well, the way most players try to bluff in a 1-2 game only causes a splash, like holding a hand under cold water. Instead, they need to make it really uncomfortable for their opponents. They need to turn on the full cold shower to get the desired effect. And how do you turn on the cold shower at the poker table? By betting much bigger than you're probably doing it. If you bet half pot or even 3/4 pot on the river, the typical calling station won't even flinch. But if you bet $250 into a pot of 100, now you're putting real pressure on his second pair. When I started increasing my bluff sizes, I began picking up a lot of pots that I would have lost before. If you figure out that someone has a capped range, then you have the green light to overbet. And how do you know if they have a capped range? Well, if you bet small on scary boards on previous streets and they don't raise, it almost always means that they can't have a monster. So try out the bigger bluff sizes next time you play. But here's a word of warning. Some people love cold showers, like I do. They don't get scared by them. So there are some home games or card rooms where you just can't get anyone to fold. If you play in such a game, then you have to take the opposite approach. Never bluff, but always go really big with value hands. And that can even be top pair. The next one is still surprisingly widespread, and even many really good players believe it. But if you don't question this, your win rate is probably taking a big hit. Just recently, I helped one of my students fix this. He brought me a hand that had him puzzled, so we went through it. Someone in early position raised, 2 players in middle position called, my student called in the cutoff with 7-6 of hearts. Then the button called, the big blind called. And suddenly 6 people were in the pot, because hey, it's low stakes poker, apparently everyone is contractually obligated to just see a flop. Anyway, that flop came pretty good for my student, Queen 8 deuce all hearts. The action checked to my student, who bet 25 into the pot of 61. The button and the original raiser called. Everyone else folded. The turn was a brick, my student kept betting. He made it 75, this time only the button called. The river was an offsuit king. My student now went all in for 290, the button snap called and showed down ace-9 of hearts and scooped the massive pot. Hero was disheartened. He thought he had done everything right in this hand, so was it just a cooler? Well, there was an element of a cooler here, but this could have been avoided altogether if he hadn't had the false belief that suited connectors are great in multi-way pots. Even the best players in the world can't win much with suited connectors, and that assumed that they're heads up. But in multi-way pots, you'll either flop weak pairs or flush draws, and if you hit a flush, you'll either not get much action because your opponents will be more inclined to fold when they see the flush on the board, or like in this example, you get a lot of action, but from a hand that beats you. So how should you play suited connectors then? In early and middle position, just fold them. In late position, you can raise if no one else has raised before. And most importantly, don't call with suited connectors in any position, with the exception of the big blind if you get a good price. False belief number 4 can slowly drain your bankroll for months, if not years, without you even realizing it. Imagine you have a dinghy boat and you row out into the ocean. Then a storm comes and you see your boat is getting full of water. You say to yourself, well, the storm will pass soon and then I'll be okay. But in reality, the storm is not your problem. Your actual problem is that your little dinghy boat has a few massive holes. That's where the water is coming in from, not the storm. And this is the false belief a lot of poker players have. The dinghy boat is their poker career. The storm is variance. And the holes in the dinghy are the holes in their poker game. They think that they are just running bad because their set of 5s lost to a set of queens the other day. But in reality, the issue is that they make massive mistakes left and right. They call hands in multi-way pots that don't play well multi-way, like suited connectors. They check call big bets on the river with bluff catchers. And they bet big with hands where they should just check. So if you think that you have just been running bad for 2 years, step back and analyze your game. Or ask an experienced coach to look over some of your hands to make sure if it is really the storm or if you have a leaky boat. This next lie hit a chord with the readers of my email newsletter. I got several replies telling me how much this has helped them. And by the way, if you want to receive my weekly strategy newsletter to beat live low stakes poker, then click the link in the description below. And you'll even get my free cheat sheet, Exploit Every Player Type, with it. One story that really illustrates this comes from a player who was actually quite good, but he made a few questionable choices when it came to his open ranges. He knew exactly what the suggested raising ranges were and that he shouldn't limp silly hands, yet I repeatedly saw him open hands like ace-8 offsuit in the hijack, call king-9 offsuit in the big blind after a raise and 3 calls, and limp ace-deuce offsuit on the button. When I asked why, he said, if I play too tight, I won't get any action. Well, even if that were true, the adjustment would still not be to play all sorts of weak hands just to give the impression you're lose. Instead, I would be more aggressive and 3-bet more in position. But at 1-2 or 1-3, you don't even need to do that. Like a player in Florida proves regularly. Donna is the tightest knit you could imagine, only raising big pocket pairs. Yet when she leaves the table, she usually cashes out far more than what she bought in for. How? She just plays her big hands aggressively, and some calling station will pay her off with her top-paired good kicker. Donna understands what a lot of players miss. You don't have to be loose to get action, because most opponents at 1-2 and 1-3 won't even notice how tight you are. They play their cards, and if those cards are good, they will call you even if you haven't played a hand since 1987. So don't obsess about being loose, and certainly don't use this as an excuse to play more hands. In raked cash games, the most profitable style for most players is tight, aggressive, and sticking to it. Avoiding these lies will stabilize your win rate, but if you want to truly increase it, then there is one skill that you have to learn. If you want to find out what it is, watch this video next.